While a new report underscores Democrats' messaging shortfalls with Latino voters in the 2020 election, a survey conducted by Nuestro PAC found that by the time Democrats started paying attention to Latino voters in key Texas and Florida districts, Republicans had already embedded their message linking Democrats and Biden to socialism. As NBC Latino reports, when Democrats and their allies finally did spend money, they hired white-owned media firms that used Spanish-speaking voiceover actors who narrated over stock photos and video. Joining us now, Democratic strategist and founder of Nuestro PAC, Chuck Rocha. The group conducted that survey we just mentioned of 2020 Latino voters. Also with us, professor at the Lyndon B. Johnson School of Public Affairs at the University of Texas, MSNBC contributor Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, and CEO of the Messina Group, Jim Messina. He served as White House Deputy Chief of Staff to President Obama and ran his 2012 re-election campaign. And Jonathan Lemire is still with us as well.
So good to have everybody here. Hey, Chuck, let me go to you first. I kept hearing warnings. I kept trying to tell Democrats, Republicans that I've known for 20 years, are saying, man, let me tell you what we're finding in Miami-Dade. They're being turned off. The socialism stuff that all of your Democratic friends say is not having an impact. It's having an impact. The defund the police stuff that your Democratic friends say is not having an impact. It's having an impact. Like, there are a lot of, like, oh, my God. Would Democratic leaders in Washington not consider for a second what the Republicans on the ground knew? There are a lot of Hispanics in Miami-Dade who are either police officers or retired police officers or firefighters or retired. Like, there's a real community there. And then the final thing had to do with the pandemic. A lot of Hispanics wanted their businesses to reopen. Now, I'm just wondering, Chuck, will 2020 be enough for Democrats in Washington, D.C. to finally realize that Hispanics are not one homogenous group? And yes, there are conservative Hispanics that they also have to worry about.
Joe, you couldn't be more right. And it's like you wrote this report. We went and looked at the last 30 days in Miami-Dade alone in Spanish and found that Democrats spent $14 million. Now, that would be cool most of the time if you'd have done it back in July, just in Spanish language communication. Now, in return, Republicans have spent about $6 million. That means Democrats spent twice as much, but still underperformed by 20 points. And to your messaging point, we sent mail out to a bunch of persuadable Democrats in Austin from Nuestro PAC. Now, Joe, me and you've run a lot of campaigns, and I've seen 3 or 4 mail pieces come back with something dirty wrote on it or something ugly. We got back 300 pieces of mail with the word socialist or communist or traitor written on this mail and sent back to us. That was a warning shot to us in August. We tried to raise the flags up and say, look, guys, something's happening. And when we delve into the research, we found that Trump and the Republicans had been long time organizing, that had people on the ground. We were dealing with COVID, so we were telling people to stay home and not campus. They were in the community. So one after another, it brings home this final point that you just made, is we're not a monolith. I'm a Latino. I grew up in East Texas. Just like you, I grew up listening to Jerry Clower in a Whataburger parking lot, and I'm a lot different than a Miami Cuban, but we're still Latino voters.
Yeah, and still a lot of his culturally conservative elements in a lot of Hispanic Latino communities. And you're so right. I mean, and it shouldn't be that hard to figure out when Hispanic voters are scrawling on socialist they're not thinking about AOC. They're thinking about the leaders they had in Nicaragua. They're thinking about the tyrants they had in Cuba. They're thinking about the tyrants they had in Venezuela, man. This is not about American politics. And I've talked to them, and I've talked to people that have immigrated from other parts of the world who said, I came to America for freedom. I want the government off my back. Again, this is not coming from me. I'm not making a political statement myself. I'm just repeating what I've heard time and time again. It sounds like you did too.
Yep. And we also found out, and that drives home the point, is the socialism thing was a big part of like the Colombian vote we haven't lost in a long time. Eki's lab is putting out later this month in-depth research. It shows how it moved these Colombians. And in places like Texas, think about Hidalgo County, There were 168,000 people who voted in a county that's 90% Latino. This week, we found out that 53,000 of these people, Latinos, were new voters. And of those, 9,800 of those had registered after the Democratic primary. The Republicans had built infrastructure there with the Libre initiative and actually went into the community when the Democrats really didn't spend any money there because all of those elections in the Valley are in the primary, not in the general.
Well, and Jim Messina, here's the bigger challenge for Democrats, because a lot of people say, well, you know, Trump, he campaigned a lot in Miami-Dade. He was smart in Miami-Dade. You can go, as David Shore brilliantly brings up, you can look at Hispanic numbers in California. You can look at Hispanic numbers in Massachusetts. You can look at Hispanic numbers in New York State, in places where there wasn't a lot of campaigning because it wasn't competitive. And you still had Hispanic movement toward the Republican Party for many of the same reasons that Chuck's talking about in Miami-Dade.
Yeah, look, I agree. I think there's a couple things to unpack here. The first is our inability to canvass, as Chuck said. You know, we were not on the doors talking to these voters as they were deciding. And the second, the Democratic Party has got to get around to the notion that we have messaging problems. And Joe, the thing you said that I just agree with the most, and you and I've talked about this a lot before, Latino voters are not a monolith, and they are very different in some of these places. And if you look at, like, my friend Judy Zapparini, who's the state senator from Laredo, Texas, says that part of her deal isn't socialism, why we did so poorly down there. It's our embrace of the Green New Deal and the fact that we were bleeding energy voters who are primarily Latino voters in the Rio Grande Valley in historic numbers in her state Senate district. I mean, we've got to sort of look at some of our messaging and say, are we really appealing to all the voters we can? And I totally agree on the socialism point that Chuck made. We have got to tackle this head on and say, look, we have a different vision for the future. But if we're just going to play defense, you know, we're going to continue to bleed with these incredibly important voters. We cannot assume that Latino voters are part of our base. We have to treat them as persuadables and have a message to them that is very compelling and isn't just the typical junk that we put out there the last 60 days of every election.
The typical bland, generic junk that assumes, Jonathan Lemire, that Hispanic voters in Miami-Dade are the same as Hispanic voters along the Rio Grande, or the same as Latino voters in Arizona, the same as Latino voters in Nevada. It's insulting, and it's not like Hispanic leaders haven't been saying this for decades, but Democrats in Washington won't hear it. So what are we saying? That the Democratic Party needs to now see Hispanics as some right-wing force? No. You just target Hispanics like you target white people. You figure out, right? You figure out, okay, well, what's their background? Do they attend church regularly? Do they do that? Instead of just one insulting message that say, oh, we're in trouble with Hispanics, so let's just do a national message to Hispanics. That's insulting. Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.